Hello and welcome back to my channel, MCC Designs. My name is Marissa and this is the third episode of the Half Double Purl podcast. And today the episode is a little later than expected just due to the holiday season, and I actually just got back from traveling to a work conference in Fort Worth, Texas, which was really fun. So it is coming to you 1 week late, so I'll just get into it. I will be talking about not really any finished objects because I didn't do a ton of different projects over the holiday season or traveling or anything. I did work on a few things just here and there, but my main project was my colorwork sweater. So the only finished object that's not even quite finished yet, still has the ends to weave in, is this tote bag I made here in this really nice purple color. So this is, if you've watched my previous episodes, I mentioned that I was revamping my kind of like finished pieces part of my business, and so that will be going into my stock for that. That will be coming up in the spring and kind of like warmer months of the year when markets and stuff start back up, so that is really fun and exciting. And continuing along that vein, I've been working on several other colors of these tote bags, one of which is this like taupey brown one, which is almost finished, and then this bright orange gold one, which is really fun. And I have a bunch of colors in those, but these are the three most recent ones that I have worked on, which is really fun, and I'm really excited to get those finished up and tagged and ready to ship out when the time comes. My next whip is one that I worked on a little tiny bit on my trip while I was on one of the planes, but really I barely worked on it because I was distracted and just not feeling like I wanted to crochet on the plane. But it's just the start of a granny stitch shawl, which is my go-to project is probably anything with granny stitch for traveling, so that way I don't have to follow a pattern or anything. And I was just going along and increasing on one side and not increasing on the other side. And this yarn is, I believe, Shine or Gloss from We Crochet in the color, but I will put it here on the screen so that you have that information. I really love this color. It's like a nice dusty lavender, and so I just worked on that a teeny tiny bit. Nothing too crazy. I didn't have any projects already going that were small and like simple to follow, so I just kind of started a new one while on the plane. But again, I didn't really do much with it, and I don't know if I'm gonna like keep it as a travel project or keep working on it, but that is another whip that I worked on. So one that I'm really excited about having almost finished, not quite, I still have one sleeve left, is my colorwork sweater. And I made so much progress on this, and I went back home to my parents' house for over a week, and all I worked on while I was there was this sweater. And so here it is. It's very obviously not blocked, but I have the collar finished, which I think I'm going to tuck in and make just like a really thick double collar like that. But the whole body is done. So I'm really excited about that. The ribbing looks excellent. I love it. The fit is perfect as far as length goes. And then I'm almost done with the first sleeve. I'm just on like the little cuff so far, which I would have finished the sleeves while at home as well, but I didn't take my short tips, and I despise magic loop. I do not like it at all. I know a lot of people are able to do it just fine and use it well, but I can't stand doing magic loops, so I didn't really do much work on the sleeves while home. And so I'm almost finished, and I probably might finish it today actually, just to get it done and ready for blocking. And it's so cozy and warm. I actually did not bring any of the different colored yarn that I used for it to show you again, but if you saw my other episodes, you'll recognize this sweater. And all of the pieces of color are Sorella yarn tonals from their Downton Abbey collection. And I always mix the names up a little bit, but I think this is the Butler, the black one is Black Tie, and then this kind of like brownish gray one, if you can see, That one is Lord Grantham, I believe. And then the solid color, creamy white, this is all I have left of the current ball I'm using. But I do have the tag, and it is Swish DK Weight, and the color, let's see, Nutmeg Heather. And this is 100% fine superwash merino wool, weight 3. And let's see the yards, 123 yards per 50-gram ball. So that has been really fun to work with, and it's very, very soft, and it's going to be very wearable, and I'm really excited about it because it's so pretty. I did have to stop the color work like about halfway through the chart because my stitches were just way too tall. So I'll put like what it's kind of supposed to look like right here, and then you can see how I stopped really, really short at the bottom here because they're supposed to be way more, but the yoke was just getting gonna be way too long if I kept going, so I cut it off here at this yellow stripe. But I really love it, and I'm really glad I did that. Otherwise, this may be a dress with like just wrist sleeves. Like it would be crazy. But I am a very loose knitter, and so I was kind of expecting that to happen anyway because I had to size down needles like crazy for this, and it was still really tall. So I'm really excited about it. There is a tiny bit of puckering where the increases are. I don't know if you can tell. And I'm hoping that just blocks out. This is my first color work knit, so I don't know how the fabric reacts to blocking, but I will keep you posted and maybe be wearing it next time, which would be great. Yeah, so I've worked on that almost exclusively for a week straight, and I was off work for a week, so I just knit, and I got through the body way faster than I expected to, which was amazing. Yeah, so I'm really excited about that, and hopefully it'll be a finished object by the next episode, which if it's not, then I don't know why, because it should be. So that's that sweater. Another whip that I'm really excited about is a hat pattern that I'm designing. So I'll just show that really quick because it's not finished. So here it is. It's just a very simple ribbed hat, and I am making it out of this Drops Air yarn, which is so lightweight and so fluffy. It's like a tube style yarn, very, very nice. This is, let's see, it's 65% alpaca, 28% polyamide, and 7% wool. So soft, so fluffy. I love it. It's 50 grams and 164 yards per ball, which is plenty for the hat that I'm making, and I will be posting this pattern for free on my blog and potentially doing a full YouTube tutorial here on YouTube and maybe mini ones on Instagram and TikTok. So that, I'm really excited about that hat. I did make one of these already and finished it and gifted it to my mom. I don't think I shared it on the early episodes, but she has recently decided to get into hunting with my dad and needed a bright, bright orange hat. So I made her one for Christmas, and it turned out really well, and I honestly love the bright orange. It's really pretty. So I decided to turn it into a legit pattern because the fit of the hat is just really nice, and I really like it. So moving on, I unearthed an ancient whip. I have not worked on this project for a year, and I know that because last Christmas vacation, I took this home to my parents to work on while I was there for a week from school, and have not touched it since then. So here it is. I'm going to try not to flip it over. So if you can see, it is the start of a quilt, a full quilt, full-size quilt. Yes, you heard that. Full-size quilt out of these teeny, tiny little squares. And I never intended to finish it all at once when I did start it. I was kind of going to work on it on and off throughout the year, and I didn't at all. I didn't make one square other than that like week that I started working on it. But I picked it back up because I do absolutely love it. I love the idea of having an heirloom quilt that is just like gonna have all these really rich, fun, bright colors, and just joined together in like a very kind of, not exactly random, but like random-ish pattern of squares. And yeah, so I want to start back doing that because they're really pretty and I love them. And if you've been here a while, you've probably seen these like floating around on my Instagram before. And I think I made a video last year talking about them. I'm not sure. But here is the yarn that I'm using. I'm keeping it in this like sweater box from either Target or Walmart or somewhere. And I'm using all linen quill yarn from Purl Soho, which they did gift this to me last year to use for this project, which I'm super grateful for, because before this I had been wanting to try linen quill for the longest time. You can see all those colors in there. I love linen quill. It is a rough yarn, I'm not gonna lie. That linen wool blend of it makes it scratchy, but I kind of love that, so I don't mind that, especially because the idea for this blanket is it's going to be kind of like a decorative and functional blanket, so it doesn't necessarily have to be super soft to be on skin, but more so on the top of a comforter or something, on the back of a couch, anything like that, if that makes sense. But here is the label for the linen quill. Let's see, it's 50% fine Highland wool, 35% alpaca, and 15% linen. And I have heard that as you work with it and as you wash it, it does soften up a lot because of that linen just breaking down a little bit more. But it is like, it has that woolly wool feel. I love it. I love this yarn a lot. I think I could make a sweater out of it and be perfectly fine. But it is not like a super soft yarn by any means. And it is 100 grams a skein, 439 yards total, made in Peru. And I can put a list of all of these colors down in the description. Not all of them have their tags still, so I might have to do some hunting on their website. I think they're all in this box, just like randomly strewn about. So I'll have that listed for sure, which I love this color palette a lot. It's still very much my color palette, so I'm looking forward to getting back into this project. Maybe having like a loose goal tracker for it, maybe 2 squares a week, 3 square, I don't know, something like that, because they don't take very long. They're little like sunburst granny squares just with sock weight yarn, so they're teeny tiny. And I do have a pattern for this granny square posted for free on my blog if you're interested in that. It's pretty basic granny square pattern. There's a million out there that exist. Mine is not necessarily going to be very different if you already know how to do this square, but it is the one that I am following for this project, and I am joining them with some slip stitches in between. I find that that's the best way to have kind of a flat back for them, and not to mention there's gonna be 50,000 ends by the end of this. I did make a little diagram for this quilt back when I was starting it, and according to these calculations that I made then, I need 450 squares for this blanket. So yeah, I'll leave it at that because that's a lot. But anyway, so that is that blanket that may or may not be a lifelong heirloom project. I don't know. I love it, so I don't want to not work on it, if that makes sense. It's just a lot to think about. And that is my last whip of today, or any that I worked on in previous episodes throughout the weeks. Those still exist. I just haven't worked on those since I showed them, if that makes sense. So that's probably how I'm going to continue doing these episodes. So if you don't see a project, it's still alive, it hasn't been frogged, it's just not in rotation at the moment. Next, I'll go into some acquisitions that I've gotten, which I am participating in the No Buy January that always seems to get really popular with the new year, which I'm all for it. I'm kind of resetting for January, spending habits and acquisition habits and all that kind of stuff. If you're not, totally cool. But it's just something that I wanted to try out to see if I could just even do it. But with traveling, I did give myself kind of like some leeway with traveling because I knew I couldn't, do that without spending money. So I did get some souvenir yarn while in Fort Worth. And it was my first time in Texas at all, and it was really, really cool. If you've not been to Fort Worth, I was able to go to their stockyards, and see a cattle drive, which was really neat. They just had some of the longhorns, and they make a trip through this historical district in the town, and it was really cool, and we got to see the cows after and learn their names. And I was also able to visit a local yarn shop while I was there and get some locally dyed yarn, which was really neat, and so I will show that here, which already this color is not blue at all, so I don't know why it's showing like that. I don't know if I can get a better picture of it. But this is green. It's a really deep green. It's genuinely, this is not the color at all. That's so weird. I don't know if I can like make it look greener, but it's like a deep forest green, and it is from West 7th Wool. Let's see if you can see that, from Fort Worth, Texas, and it is called Shade Shifter, so maybe that is a good name for it, because it is not blue. It is definitely green. That's so weird. I don't know if I'll try and get a picture that's more color accurate. I might have to like edit it to make it correct. But it's a sock weight yarn, 70% merino, 30% nylon, and it's really nice. And I think I'm gonna make an Oslo hat out of this. Knit California, she is one of my favorite podcasters, and she, I feel like, has gotten everybody hooked on these hats, and now I need to make one as well. So I think that's what I'm gonna do with these. So I got 2 skeins of that. And if you are not familiar, I am in agriculture. I work with cotton quality, so which is kind of interesting. It's kind of a mix of agriculture and fiber, and so I'm able to kind of have 2 worlds collide in that sense. And I was there for a cotton conference, and so I got some cotton yarn, of course. So this is Holst Yarn, I believe is how you pronounce it. And it is this pretty periwinkle blue color. And let me see, it's 55% lamb's wool, 45% cotton, 50 grams, and 383 yards. And I think I'm gonna make some sort of little like bandana, scarf, kerchief thing out of this. It's pretty soft. It does feel like cotton, that like sturdiness to it, and I really like it. And I was on like a blue-green kick, so that is what I got, and I really like it, and I'm excited to use it. And this is my one and only acquisition for January, or 2, I guess. I don't know, 4 anyway. I did get a pretty big haul of yarn in December to kind of start off the year and maybe not get any for a couple months because of that. And if I have not already posted that, it will be up very soon, and I will leave a link down below and over here. Massive yarn haul to make a bunch of sweaters and fun summer projects and all that good stuff. And a few other things that I have been enjoying over the break. I did not watch a lot of TV. I watched a bunch of football with my parents, and the bowl game for my college and all that, if you're familiar. But I did a lot of reading. So I got a couple books from my brother for Christmas. These are 2 of those that I got, and One Dark Window is the first in this fantasy series. And I read this in a night. I like binge read it, which is my typical reading style. If I really like a book, I'm not gonna go to sleep until I finish it type thing. So I stayed up pretty late finishing it. And overall, I think that I would rate this book a 3 out of 5. I liked the story enough to read it very quickly, but in the end, I found that it was really easy for me to predict what was going to happen next, and I'm not a type of reader that wants to do that. Like, I'm not reading it and thinking like, oh, what could this mean? What could this little detail mean? I just kind of like let the book happen to me as I'm reading it, if that makes sense. And for this book, I couldn't help but predict it because it was very obvious. I don't know if you've read this, what do you think? I really liked it. It just had that predictability that I don't always love. And then right after, I did start the second one, but I haven't read it in like over a week, so definitely need to get back to it. I'm not sure if it's just a duology or if there's more to come, but yes, pretty good. I would recommend it, but again, that predictability factor of fantasy reading is not my favorite. But I will finish the second one. And then I also got the Gilded series, or the Guild, something like that, which is a pretty long series, and I got the first 2 books of that, which I'm going to start after this one, and I'm really excited about that. Another acquisition that I got that isn't really yarn, but yarn adjacent, I went to Dollar Tree to get like some little travel things, and I found these like little jars, like screw top jars, and these little plastic containers for like beads and craft supplies. But I always need stitch markers when they're not near me, so I got these with the intent, let's see if you can see that, to kind of put stitch markers in and throw them in my project bags so they have like a place to live, which there's probably many other things you can do. You can do like a little pouch or anything, but this felt like the best way for me to do it because then I could see what's in it. And there were 3 in a pack, and the other one has 4 in a pack, just to have little stitch markers and in my project bags just floating around. So got those. And I think that's all that I have to share with you today. It's a shorter episode for sure, but thank you so much for joining me today. And I hope to finish some of these projects by next episode. I hope you have a great new year and had a great time celebrating all of the holidays, whatever holiday you celebrate, or if you don't, you just had a good start to your new year. And thank you again for watching. You can find me on all social media platforms at MCC Designs, and I will see you next time. See ya!